Hey, what's up YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to share with you what I've learned about AWS S3 and how to host a static website in the S3 bucket and how to give it a custom domain name and an SSL certificate tied to the custom domain name. Let's begin. Let's go to the S3 bucket. The sample website that I'm going to use comes from this GitHub. This is what we'll be expecting. I've created a few sample of the S3 bucket. Let me show you what contains. We will use this. In this S3 bucket, I already created a sample. Let's click on this S3. Okay, when you create the bucket, you can create any names you want. Let me run through. So you create a bucket and you give it a bucket name. Let's say workshop test S3 test 1. Everything you keep by default. So once you create, it will give you an empty bucket and you click on it and you upload the files that you require. The website that I show you, I already downloaded. Now uploaded the files. It will be something like this. Okay, upload and you click. Since I already uploaded, these are all the files. And what we have to do is the S3 will create a custom domain name. However, as you can see, the static website hosting is disabled because you need to enable it. Let's enable it. And when you enable it, it asks for the index.html. Let's give it an index.html. And ignore the rest. Once you enable the static website hosting, it will give you a custom domain name, which is this. Let's click on it and see what we have. It will show a 403 forbidden because there is no policy that enables the content to be accessible from the public. So let's create a bucket policy. Let's copy one from here. Let's go to the permission. Let's make sure the block all public access is off. Let's create the bucket policy and fill in the bucket name. The bucket name is S3 test SSL 123.click. S3.test SSL 123.click. Let's make save. Let's see whether it works. Okay, so right now we can access the static website on the S3 bucket. Let's stop this. If you notice, this is a custom domain name. If you notice this is Amazon's custom domain name. What if you want to have your own custom domain name? I have here with me a custom domain name that I purchased long time ago. I call this test SSL 123.click. For example's sake, I will create a new A record, call it S2, and I will select this, create an alias. We will use the AWS S3 endpoint to point to the S3 bucket. Since our bucket is hosted on a North region, US East, there's no resource found because I already created one. Let me show you. See? This is the one that I've created. Now, if we revisit this, it should appear S3.s test S3. Now we have already point a custom domain name to our S3 bucket. If you notice, this is not secure. So how to give an SSL certificate to a custom domain name that is hosted on the S3 bucket? You have to use CloudFront. CloudFront is a CDN where it's a content distribution network where it will distribute the content of your S3 bucket all over the world. For today's example, I already created one because it takes a while for it to respond, but I'll show you how I go about it. First, we have to request a cert called S3.test SSL 123.click. Keep everything default. So right now we have to click on it and let it goes to create a record in root 53. Let's click on. If everything goes well, it should reflect here. I'm not sure if you can see this. It's already created. Let's see whether it get reflected. HTTPS. It doesn't work this way, so we have to use CloudFront. So the certificate is already created. Let's proceed to CloudFront. Let's create a distribution. Let's click on the existing one. Let's use the website endpoint. Let's find the certificate. Keep everything as default for the time being. Let's refresh this and we have our certificate. Let's see if I can enable the redirect HTTP to HTTPS, and we create the distribution. This process will take a while. Say last modified deploying. It says last modified deploying. For convenience sake, I already created something here. We have to wait. Okay, the alternate domain is missing. So this is we have to make changes. So previously my domain name is called s3.testssl123.click, right? So we have to put it in. We have to make changes again, and this can be done here. Alternate domain name s3 testssl123.click. Let's save changes. This is where we wait. Let's refresh this. Still deploying. I just realized that there is one thing missing. The CloudFront has been created. However, I'm still having issues. Problem is the S3 bucket is pointing to this domain name. So right now we are using CloudFront as the current source. So we have to make changes to the A name to point to CloudFront instead.